Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The hum of the industrial vacuum echoed softly through the executive floor. Amaka moved quietly, her worn sneakers gliding over the marble tiles. It was past 9 p.m. The corridors were silent, the offices empty, except for one light left on in a corner office, Chuka Okonkwo's. With gloved hands, Amaka gently lifted a half-eaten croissant from a crystal plate and wrapped it in a clean piece of old newspaper. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from exhaustion and hunger. She glanced around the room. No one saw her. Or so she thought. Behind the tinted glass wall of the CEO's office, Chuka stood reviewing quarterly reports. His eyes drifted for a second, and there she was, a silhouette reflected faintly on the glass. Wrapping food? He frowned, then looked back down at his file. In the reception hallway, security guard Baba Leke shifted in his seat and muttered, "Always packing scraps, like no dignity." He didn't say it loud enough, but Amaka heard. Still, she smiled gently and nodded at him as she passed. "Good night, sir." He looked away, pretending not to notice her kind voice. Downstairs, Toby, the CEO's young assistant, sipped coffee while waiting for a print job. As Amaka approached the elevator, he noticed her plastic bag. Something about her posture struck him. "You okay, Ma?" "I'm fine. Thank you," she replied, voice low, eyes downcast. Toby watched the elevator doors close behind her. He didn't understand why, but he couldn't shake the image of her shaking hands. Back in his office, Chuka reviewed documents, but his mind wandered. He tapped his pen repeatedly before finally sighing and walking to the security monitor feed. He rewound the footage, clicked, and paused on the frame of Amaka wrapping the croissant. The image hit harder than he expected. Later that night, Amaka reached her stop, an old, broken-down bus terminal on the city's edge. She slipped past rusted gates, greeting an elderly woman seated beside a bundle of clothes. "You're back early," Auntie Iridi said, adjusting her wrapper. "Work was light today," Amaka whispered. She knelt beside her daughter, Zuri, who lay curled in a blanket on cardboard. "She didn't cough much tonight," Auntie Iridi added. "Thank God," Amaka sighed. She unwrapped the food and shared it between them. "I found it in the trash," she admitted, her voice breaking. "No shame in feeding your child," Auntie Iridi replied firmly. Amaka looked up at the stars through the cracked roof. Her stomach ached, not just from hunger but from the weight of invisibility. To everyone at that firm she was just the janitor, the cleaner, the shadow. But her daughter was still alive, still smiling. And that made it all worth it. Inside the glass tower uptown, Chuka Okonkwo sat alone at his polished desk, sipping scotch. His brows were furrowed. He didn't know her name yet. But he knew, something wasn't right. The next evening, Amaka moved swiftly through the executive lounge, emptying bins. She paused beside a silver trash can. Inside lay an untouched sandwich wrapped in branded foil, and a half-empty bottle of mineral water. She hesitated, glanced around, then reached in carefully. She wiped off the foil gently with a napkin and placed it in her lunch bag, whispering under her breath, "Thank you." Across the glass, Chuka sat silently in his office, sipping espresso. His desk was clean. His mind wasn't. He'd left the blinds up deliberately. And again he saw her. Same woman. Same plastic bag. Same bowed head. Only this time, something else caught his eye, a red lipstick stain on the sandwich wrapper. Clearly discarded in disgust. But Amaka held it like treasure. Later that night in the break room, Toby walked in on her sipping hot water from a paper cup. "No tea." She shook her head. "Just hot water is fine. Warms the stomach." Toby blinked. "You don't ever eat?" "I eat," she said with a forced smile. "Just not here." Chuka passed by the open break room door. He paused, unnoticed, listening. Something inside him shifted again. When Amaka left the building he followed, but only to the gate. She walked fast, arms wrapped tightly around her lunch bag. That night, Amaka and Zuri shared the sandwich beneath the flickering light of the bus terminal. Zuri's laughter was weak but warm. "Mummy, this one has chicken." Amaka kissed her forehead. "God is good." Auntie Iridi watched silently. "That girl, she's stronger than most people I've known." Meanwhile, in his penthouse apartment, Chuka tossed and turned. He didn't understand it yet. But that janitor haunted him. Not her face. Her silence. "Sir, final numbers for Q2, Toby said, placing the file on Chuka's desk. Chuka didn't respond immediately. His eyes were on the monitor again, replaying the CCTV footage. Toby, that cleaner? What's her name? Cleaner? You mean janitor? Yes. I think her name is Amaka. Why? Chuka didn't answer. Toby blinked. Sir, did she do something? Chuka shook his head. No. Just, something's off. Later that afternoon, Chuka walked through the back corridors alone. The air smelled of bleach and lemon. He passed by the janitor's closet and heard gentle humming, soft, almost lullaby-like. Peeking slightly, he saw Amaka folding cloths methodically, her hands still trembling. He backed away silently. Later that night at the bus terminal, Zuri asked, Mummy, are we always going to live here? No, Amaka whispered. One day we'll have a real door. One that locks. Zuri coughed lightly. Auntie Iridi checked her pulse and inhaler. She needs clean air. I know, Amaka said, staring at the dark sky. I'm trying. Back at the firm, Chuka reviewed more footage. Amaka collecting trash, arranging magazines, straightening tables others had kicked out of place. He didn't understand why she affected him so deeply. He only knew he couldn't stop watching. It rained that night. Amaka dashed through puddles, shoes soaked, plastic bag held close. The bus terminal's roof leaked again. Auntie Iridi was using a basin to catch water. Zuri's fever's down, the old woman said. But she coughed all night. Amaka knelt and wiped her daughter's face with a clean cloth. She'll be okay. She opened the bag and handed over a soggy meat pie. Zuri bit in gratefully. Suddenly, a knock at the gate startled them. Amaka stood frozen. But it was just the fruit seller across the street offering mangoes. She sang for me yesterday, he said, nodding toward Zuri. Bright girl. Amaka smiled faintly. Thank you. Meanwhile, Chuka sat in his car across the road. Windows fogged, hands gripping the wheel. He didn't know what he expected to see, but when he saw Amaka emerge, hugging her child beneath leaking zinc and laughter, his throat tightened. He stayed until the rain stopped. Toby knocked on Chuka's office door. Here's the updated list of admin staff. We're down to one janitor. Amaka. Chuka nodded slowly. What do you think of her? Toby hesitated. Quiet. Polite. Never late. Never complains. She's different. Later, Chuka passed through the lobby and saw Amaka crouched by the elevator cleaning a spill. Her black plastic bag was beside her. A lipstick-stained napkin peeked out. She looked up and their eyes met. Only for a second. She stood slowly. Good evening, sir. He nodded but said nothing. She pressed the elevator button and turned away. But something cracked in him, something he didn't show. Later, as he sat alone, glass of wine untouched, he remembered his mother, her calloused hands, the way she'd clean houses for rich families and come home with half-eaten food. He'd promised he'd never be poor again. Now, someone else's poverty felt personal. And for the first time in years, Chuka wiped away a tear, one no one saw. Chuka sat in his car that evening, engine humming quietly as he watched the building entrance. His tie hung loose, sleeves rolled up. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about quarterly reports or board meetings. He was waiting for Amaka. At 9:47 p.m. she emerged. Same black plastic bag. Same hunched shoulders. She walked briskly, ignoring the stares from street vendors shutting down for the night. She crossed a narrow footbridge and turned down a dirt path behind the old bus terminal. Chuka followed discreetly, parking 2 blocks away. From behind a fence, he watched her meet an elderly woman, Auntie Iridi, who greeted her with a tired smile. A child rushed into Amaka's arms. Sorry. She lifted her gently, spinning her in the air before setting her down. How was your evening, baby? I counted 6 buses today. Zuri grinned. You're getting smarter. They disappeared behind a rusted gate. Chuka leaned back in his seat, shaken. His chest felt hollow. This was where she lived? A janitor. With a child. Sleeping in a forgotten corner of the city. While he spent 10,000 naira on coffee meetings he never drank. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Chuka returned to the bus terminal. No tinted windows. No bodyguards. He walked past small kiosks and approached a fruit seller. Good morning. I'm looking for a woman, dark-skinned, always with a little girl. Lives around here. The fruit seller blinked, cautious. Who's asking? I'm just someone who needs to understand something, Chuka replied sincerely. The man studied him, then nodded toward the rusted fence. They stay back there. That older woman takes care of the girl when her mother works night shifts. They've been here a while. They live here. The man shrugged. Sleep under tarp when it rains. But the woman always sings to the child. Even when the child coughs and wheezes, the mother sings. Strong woman. Chuka swallowed hard. Thank you. He left without another word, heart heavier than it had been in years. Back at the office, Amaka worked like nothing had changed. But something had. Not for her. For him. The sound of running water in the janitor's closet echoed faintly. Amaka scrubbed the sink as she hummed, eyes tired but focused. She had no idea the CEO had stood outside the door listening for the last 2 minutes. Chuka's memory tugged at him. His mother bent over a mop bucket in someone's mansion. Her voice cracking with exhaustion. Her smile when she brought home bread and groundnut. He remembered how ashamed he'd once felt. Ashamed of how little they had. How he'd been mocked in school for smelling like bleach. And now in front of him stood the mirror of that past. That night he visited his mother's grave, tucked beside an old church. You told me never to forget where I came from, he whispered. But I did. He placed white flowers gently on the headstone. I saw her tonight. A woman who sings to her child under a leaking roof. You would have loved her heart. Rain fell hard. Amaka curled Zuri closer under the damp blanket, whispering lullabies. But Zuri's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Auntie Iridi, her chest. Amaka cried out, panic rising. Zuri wheezed, eyes fluttering. Amaka fumbled for her inhaler. Empty. I used the last one yesterday. I'll get help. Auntie Iridi shouted, hurrying into the dark street. Amaka sobbed. Stay with me, Zuri. Please. Just then headlights pierced through the rain. Chuka's car screeched to a halt. He leapt out, soaking wet. Get in now. Amaka froze. Sir? No time. Bring her. Inside the car, Zuri coughed violently. Amaka held her tight as Chuka sped through traffic. Nearest hospital, he barked into the GPS, knuckles white on the wheel. In the ER, nurses rushed Zuri in. Amaka collapsed in the waiting room, soaked and shivering. Chuka stood beside her, breathless. She'll be fine. You came back, Amaka whispered, unable to meet his eyes. He nodded silently, his heart pounding. Zuri was stable. Amaka sat beside her hospital bed, cradling her small hand. The beeping monitor was the only sound. A nurse approached. We need payment for the bronchodilators. 7,000 naira. Amaka's heart sank. She opened her purse. Coins, small notes. Maybe 2,000 in total. I can talk to the doctor, she whispered. I can clean. Chuka appeared in the doorway. Without a word, he handed over his card. Handle it. No, sir, please. It's not charity, he said gently. It's what anyone should do. Amaka stood, tears spilling. I can't repay you. I'm not asking for that. Her shoulders shook as she turned away, hiding her face. Later, in the hospital corridor, she slid down the wall and wept silently. Chuka stood in the shadows, watching her. He wanted to say so much. But for now, silence was enough. The next morning, Amaka sat nervously outside Chuka's office. Her hands were folded tightly, knees bouncing. Toby walked past and gave her a small nod. Don't worry. He's not as scary as he looks. She offered a weak smile. The door creaked open. Come in, Chuka's voice said. She stepped in slowly. The office was immaculate, cold and modern. It made her feel even smaller. Chuka gestured to a chair. Please. Sit. She obeyed, eyes on the floor. He waited a few moments. How long have you been living like this? Amaka hesitated. Since last year. After my husband left. We couldn't pay rent. I found this job. It's the only thing that kept us alive. And your daughter? How old is she? 6. Her name is Zuri. She has asthma. That's why I keep food from here. We can't afford much. I'm sorry if I broke any rules. Chuka leaned back, face unreadable. You didn't? But why didn't you tell anyone? She looked up at him finally. Tell who? Would anyone care? He said nothing. I clean your offices. I wipe lipstick off conference tables. I know who I am here. Just a shadow. Silence settled between them. Chuka cleared his throat. Thank you for answering. You can go. She rose slowly, eyes blinking fast. Thank you for the hospital, for Zuri. Chuka nodded once. If you ever need help, come directly to me. She left quietly. Once the door closed, Chuka exhaled deeply and turned his chair away from the glass. His hands trembled, but not from anger. From guilt. Toby entered the office later that day. She's strong. Most people would have begged. She never once did. Chuka nodded. She refused help when I offered a place to stay. She what? She said, I don't want pity. I want a job. I already have my pride. Toby smiled. That's rare. That afternoon, Chuka called HR. Double Amaka's salary. Add evening shifts, but with free transportation and medical care for her daughter. Quietly. No announcement. Yes, sir. Amaka noticed the changes a week later. Ma, your new badge grants staff access to the kitchen lounge, a secretary told her. Her pay alert shocked her. Twice the usual. She approached HR hesitantly, but they shrugged. Salary adjustment. You deserve it. Still, she said nothing to anyone. Only to Zuri at bedtime. Maybe God is watching after all. Toby passed her one evening and whispered, You earned it. Don't doubt that. Amaka blinked back tears. Thank you. But deep down she promised herself, she'd stand tall no matter how high others stood. At the next board meeting, Chuka stunned the executives. I'm proposing a full staff welfare audit. Janitorial, kitchen, admin. Too many of us don't know what the foundation looks like. Ngozi, a polished senior executive, scoffed. With all due respect, we are not a rehabilitation center. Chuka's gaze hardened. We are a company. And companies fall when they forget the people holding them up. Some murmured in agreement. Others exchanged glances. Later in the hallway, Toby smiled. That was bold. I'm done pretending we're untouchable, Chuka said quietly. The audit revealed stories like Amaka's, single parents, overworked clerks, underpaid interns. He approved new housing allowances and raised baseline wages for all support staff. Amaka heard whispers in the break room. The new policy started after someone followed a janitor home. She said nothing. But when she wiped a corner table, she did it with a quiet pride. Ma, HR needs to see you. Amaka blinked. Me? When she arrived, a smiling HR officer handed her a file. You've been recommended for assistant floor supervisor. It's part-time, training provided. If you accept, you'll oversee a small cleaning team. She froze. Why me? Because someone noticed you never complained, never missed a shift, and always worked with care. That counts more than you think. She signed the paper with a shaking hand. Zuri danced when she heard the news. Can we buy shoes now, Mummy? Yes, Amaka smiled. Proper ones. She used her new salary to buy school shoes and a pink lunchbox. That Monday she walked Zuri to school holding her hand tight. When she got to work, other janitors looked at her with surprise and admiration. Toby greeted her with a warm nod. Ready, supervisor? She blushed. I'll try not to disappoint. You already haven't. 2 months later, Amaka stood outside a faded one-room apartment with iron bars and a functioning tap. It wasn't fancy, but it had a key, and it was theirs. Inside, she set down their single mattress, hung a sheet as a curtain, and laid out rice and beans on the table. That evening, Chuka stopped by unexpectedly. Toby had told him she'd moved. She opened the door, surprised. Sir? Just checking in. Is this a bad time? No, she said, stepping aside. He entered and paused. Zuri was at the table using bottle caps as math counters. 2 + 3, she announced. Amaka beamed. She's learning fast. Chuka looked around. The small space, the laughter, the effort, it all hit him at once. You've done well. Not alone, she said softly. Before he left, he glanced at the door and whispered, You have a home now. But more than that, you have dignity. As he walked back to his car, he wiped his eyes, and didn't try to hide it. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, silverware clinking as executives and staff gathered for the company's annual dinner. The room buzzed with laughter, expensive perfume, and quiet whispers. Amaka stood near the back, uncomfortable in her simple gown. Zuri had helped pick it out. Mummy, you look like a princess, she'd whispered that morning. Toby approached with a smile. Don't stay back here. You're being honored. Honored? Amaka blinked. Just then Chuka took the microphone. Tonight, we celebrate transformation, not just of our company but of our values. I want to call someone who reminded me what strength and dignity truly look like. He turned toward Amaka. A hush fell over the room as she walked slowly to the stage. Many executives looked puzzled. Some whispered. Amaka stood beside Chuka, trembling slightly. I'm not used to microphones, she began, voice low. But I've cleaned your crumbs, scrubbed your floors, picked up your lipstick stains and boardroom coffee spills. Some people shifted in their seats. You didn't know my name. And that was okay, until it wasn't. Because I was more than what you saw. Silence. I didn't need sympathy. I needed opportunity. And someone gave me that. Applause erupted, some slow and hesitant, others deeply moved. Amaka stepped down, heart pounding. That night she became more than a janitor. She became a symbol. The next day Ngozi stormed into Chuka's office. "You've turned this company into a soup kitchen." Chuka looked up calmly. "Excuse me? You're giving janitors the spotlight, raising salaries, handing out promotions like candy. What happened to standards?" Chuka leaned forward. "You mean your standards? The ones that leave people invisible until they collapse." Ngozi scoffed. "We're a firm, not a charity." "No. We're a family. And family looks out for each other." She stared at him. "You've changed." Maybe I remembered who I was raised by. That evening, Ngozi submitted her resignation quietly. Chuka didn't stop her. The office felt lighter without her weight. A young girl, barely 19, started as a junior cleaner. Nervous, skinny, with holes in her shoes. Amaka greeted her warmly on her first day. "Welcome. I'll show you the ropes." The girl looked down. "Ma, I don't even know how to use those machines." "We'll learn together," Amaka smiled. She gave her a pair of old slippers and a clean apron. "We all start somewhere." Later the girl whispered, "You're not like the others." Amaka's smile faded briefly. "Because I once slept where you might be sleeping tonight." She walked away, heart full. Her pain had become purpose. One morning, while cleaning out his late mother's storage trunk, Chuka found a weathered envelope tucked inside a cookbook. It was addressed to him. He opened it slowly, eyes scanning his mother's delicate handwriting. "My son, if you ever rise to greatness, don't forget the feet that clean your floors. Don't forget me. Never look down on a servant, they may be the one to lift you when you fall." Tears welled up. He folded the letter carefully and slid it into his wallet. Later he saw Amaka in the hallway and simply nodded. She didn't need to know. But she already did. Months later the company hosted a press conference, announcing a new corporate welfare initiative. Cameras flashed as journalists filled the room. Chuka stepped up to the podium. Today's success didn't start in a boardroom. It started when someone wrapped leftover food with shaking hands and reminded me what leadership truly means. Gasps filled the air. Amaka sat beside him in a navy blue suit, Zuri holding her hand tightly. "We've launched the Zuri Care program, free medical access and education support for all staff children." The audience stood clapping. Some teared up. Chuka turned toward Amaka. "Thank you for changing this company, and me." She smiled, blinking back emotion. Later that evening, Amaka walked Zuri home through the warm night breeze. "Mummy," Zuri said, "are we rich now?" Amaka laughed gently. "We're wrapped in something better. We're wrapped in grace." And for the first time in years she didn't look back at the shadows. She walked forward, head high, hand in hand with hope. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.